on. So you were just talking a little bit about the character of Nate Landry, and you were saying it was from Spencer and Hawk, and kind of some of the funny things that were in there.
Yeah, but as far as who he is, he's Nate Landry. I mean, he isn't. I don't think of somebody else. He's an individual. Even though I made him up, he's real to me.
Yeah.
And so is Wolf.
Yeah, that is certainly fascinating to get inside the creative process with an author and hear about those characters, because those characters have come to life for so many kids and adults alike. One other question, and I'd like to transition a little bit to just some general stuff for anyone watching who might, have the aspiration to write. But you've written primarily in this Old West, this one period of history, but you've written both for children and for adults. As you look into the next few years of writing, is there anything else that catches your attention? Can you give us any kind of a sneak peek into something else, another area where you might dabble a little bit with your writing?
Couldn't understand you.
Yeah, yours is. You got bad weather there? We'll just wait for it to come back here for a minute.
I think it's raining, but
yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. It seems like we're clear. So, yeah. So the question I had was, you've written these books all within this same period of history, the same Western genre, but for both kids and adults. Is there any other genre or anything else that we might see from you in the future? Any other type of writing or type of story that has your attention?
Well, when I wrote the first Artie book, Artie Goes West, I sent it out to get it published, and you were 11 years old when I first started sending that book out to see if I could get it published, and when you handed the first printed copies to me, you were 22, because it took a long time to get published, and while I was waiting on that to get published, I took a couple of writing courses, and one of them recommended very strongly that if you were a new writer, which I was completely unknown then, the best way to build your stories. And I wrote a short article also for a ladies magazine, an article about my first wife. But I wrote probably 24 short stories that were written for take-home papers for Sunday school and junior church and that kind of thing, and none of those were Westerns. I just finished taking a writing course last week, and led by two of the top children's writers coaches in the country. And in discussing things on live phone calls with my class, one of the instructors said, "Look, with your background and those stories you wrote, why in the world aren't you still writing them now?" The magazines, especially like Christian magazines, take-home papers and stuff like that, are begging for stories. She said, if you can see your way clear to do it, you should get back into that. So that's on my goals for 2022 as well.
Okay. Well, it'll be very exciting to see this first book. I forgot to ask, what's the name of the new children's series? Is that something you're telling people yet?
Yeah, the title of the book is The Box and King. The series will be Box M.
Okay.
Back then, and back then, ranches were named, and their brand matched their name. So the Box M would have a brand that was a square with a capital M in the middle, and
Great.
so it was called the Box M. Sometimes you'd have the slash something or the bar something,
Hmm.
but that it was based on the brand. So this the name of the ranch is the bar M. I mean the square, the Box M, and
Wow.
the kids call themselves the Box M Gang
Okay.
after they're on their own.
Okay.
Actually, the youngest boy comes up with that name.
All right. Well, it'll be very exciting to see where that series goes. And we've got the third book in the Nate Landry series, probably coming out this year as well, or in 2022. So let's transition here for the last part of this, just to talk a little bit about the process of writing. I mean, you've given us some great insight into your creative process already. But you introduced me to a couple terms that I jotted down here that I had not heard before. The terms plotter and pantser, which where I come from, the term pantser means something different, but a plotter or pantser. So talk a little bit about what that means in terms of writers, and then I guess answer the question on everybody's mind: are you a plotter or a pantser?
That's a really good question, and you're right. Those are writing terms that not everybody understands. Um, a plotter it's plotter is very obviously somebody who plots his story before he writes it. Plotters usually work from an outline. They lay out their story. They know exactly what's going to happen. Sometimes they lay it out by chapters. They know exactly where they're going with it, and that works for them. And there's not a right or wrong here. It's just whatever works for you. The pantser, there's an old expression that probably my grandmother used that referred to somebody who flies by the seat of his pants, um, which I think initially referred to an aviator who flew without a map of where he was going. He just went and tried to figure out where he was going while he was going there. Um, when you apply that term to writing, a pantster is somebody who writes the way I do and just sits down, picks up the pen, gets his character in mind, and winds him up and lets him go.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of the people that I know are more pantsters, but I know a number of people too who are plotters, and it's
Hmm.
just a matter of what works best for you. I mean, as an English teacher, I certainly know how to outline.
Right.
Um, I just have never had to do that.
Right. Yeah. And what an interesting a perspective that you have to see kind of both sides, as someone who spent, decades grading research papers and book reports, which were all about systematic outlines and tables of contents that match the outline and filling requirements, and then to switch over to this very creative, using the other side of your brain kind of writing, where the characters just kind of flow, and you're following them, um, wherever they lead you in that sense. It's a very interesting process. I have read in, as I've looked at stories of other authors, or anyone that is a high volume output creative person. You read about guys like Stephen King who write, every day at the same time, and put all of this out. Do you have any kind of routine, or any kind of structure, or any kind of discipline for the writing process, even if when you get into it, you're a pantster who's letting the characters lead you? What does routine and ritual and discipline and habit look like for you in this?
Um, that's a good question. And if I didn't have a routine and some discipline, I wouldn't have anything written.
Right.
Have to have discipline. In fact, anybody who writes has to have discipline. I have to look at writing as a job. So each day, I mean, medically, I'm retired. Technically, I'm supposed to be retired. I work 5 days a week while my wife is at work. We usually, this is what an average day looks for me, like for me. We get up at quarter after 5. Now, this is what we've been doing for the last year at least, because Susie leaves for work at 10 after 7. So we get up at a quarter after 5. While she's getting around, getting ready for work and everything, I spend that time. That's my devotional time. I spend a lot of that time praying. Um, when she leaves, back uh, before I had the surgery I had recently, I'd fix my own breakfast, and I'd eat breakfast and then check my email, and then I'd write from. I work from a schedule. I have a notebook. Every Sunday, I make out a schedule for the week, um, and usually from 9 to 1, I'm writing, um, unless something special comes up that I'm working on for marketing or something. Then I take a break from 12, or from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 4, when Susie comes home, I'm usually working on marketing, or answering emails, or doing things that are related to writing, watching webinars, attending conferences, writers' conferences, things like that. Um, but basically, then on Saturday and Sunday, when Susie's home, that's my reading time. If you're going to be a writer, you have to be a reader. You can't write if you're not reading. Um, so I try to read a lot of material, and like man, a lot of times I'll listen to a book. I am a big time fan of audiobooks, because I can use. I've always been. I've always liked audiobooks because I can do other things while I'm reading. I don't have to hold a book in my hand. I'm not tied down to my chair. I can be doing other mindless things like cutting up vegetables or washing dishes or that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're not kidding about that, because my youngest memories were of you getting food around in the kitchen and always with a cassette player and listening to your books on tape, or with a Walkman, everywhere you were, listening to those. But you make a really interesting point. I mean, because if you do the math on what you said there, I mean, that's 4 to 5 hours every day, 5 days a week, that you are writing, and to give that much output, there has to be some input coming in, and that's not even to speak about the other research that you have to do, to prepare to write, to write a new series, or to write a new book in that way. And I think for a lot of people who are creative, they kind of buy into the myth that they can just sit down and do it and not put in that much effort. But there's a very almost boring, monotonous, unglamorous side to what you held in your hand, that you get to send out, that brings so much joy to people in those finished books.
It's hard work. Writing is hard work. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I really enjoy it. I've been passionate about 2 jobs that I've had in my life. One was teaching, and the other one is writing. I can't wait to get started on it in the morning. I love to work.
That's great. Well, one final question we'll ask here, and then we'll wrap at least this first round of these conversations up. And for those of you that are watching this online, now if you're seeing it on Facebook or YouTube, if you have questions for Mark, put them in the comments down below, and if we get enough questions gathered up, we'll jump back on answer those, or he'll answer some of them in the comments, I'm sure, as well. But what would you say to anyone who's watching this today, that is maybe, maybe a kid, maybe a younger kid or younger than you, and is thinking, man, I want to do that. I'd love to write, or I'd love to create something or bring a character to life. What kind of advice would you give to them now that you have all this experience and success?
That's a really good question. First of all, I would say read, and then read. Um, that's the way you're going to learn how stories are put together. I still, when I read a book, I'm looking at how the author put it together. When I watch a television program, I'm looking at how the writers put the lines together, how they brought things around, how they planned things out. Um, I need to. It's an ongoing learning process. Um, I don't want to be the best writer in the world. I want to be a better writer. That's my goal, to be a better writer, and I can't do that unless I continue to learn. So I'm constantly I take writing courses, I attend webinars, um, I'm constantly reading newsletters. I have a significant number of nonfiction books in my library that deal with the Old West. I'm getting ready to, in January, I'll be giving a 30-minute talk at our library here in Apache Junction, on Arizona history. And the lady that asked me to do this um, said they just cover all kinds of aspects of Arizona history. So I've been reading a lot of Arizona history to make sure that when I talk to those people, and I know what my topic is going to be. I'm going to talk about the difference in travel in early Arizona and now. That'll be my main point. But I have to be constantly putting things in, or I'm not going to have anything to work with. It's like trying to drink out of a cup that doesn't have any water in it if you don't read. And then the second thing is, if you think there's a book inside you, or a short story, or a poem, or anything like that, then just write it. Do it. Don't don't worry about whether or not somebody's gonna laugh at it or something like that. Just write it. And if you're gonna be a writer, especially if you're looking to get some things published, you have to have thick skin. You can't be easily offended. I told you the first Artie book took 11 years to get that published. 11 years of sending it out, having people send back with a nice, or sometimes not so nice, note about why their company couldn't possibly publish it. And I got rejected by a lot of people. But you make up your mind that's what you're going to do. And it's like anything else. You just persevere. You don't quit. So I would say read for sure, and then go ahead and try. I mean, if it's your dream, follow it, and see if you can make it work.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice. Read and write, really read, and then get your words out on paper, and have thick skin, and believe in yourself. Well, Dad, where can people read more of the stuff you're thinking, order books? Where online can people find you?
I'm on Amazon.com under Mark L. Redmond. Also, my website is www.marklredmond.com.
Okay.
And if you get on my website, you'll see that I have a posse. There's a newsletter. You can sign up for that newsletter, and I send something out every 2 to 3 weeks, probably. That keeps people up. I tell those people in my posse things that other people don't always hear. I'll keep you up on what I'm doing, on what's going on in our lives, and things like that. Try to entertain you a little bit, maybe. And then you can email me at Mark Redmond 53 at gmail.com. And I love feedback. I love to hear from people who've read my books. And also on Amazon, if you read a book and you really like it, go to Amazon and leave a review. That will help me more than probably anything else you could do.
Yeah, that's great. And then also, depending on where you're watching this, Facebook and this up on YouTube as well, are places where people can connect with you. Well, this has been a treat for me for sure. And yeah, and we hope you all have enjoyed it, and we will see you down the trail.